Hey, real life, it's good to see you guys. I missed you guys. It's great to be back, and I just want to thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm so glad you're here. I want to welcome our Corpus campus down on the coast, as well as those who connect with us online. Literally over 1,000 people from coast to coast. So, Austin family, would you help me welcome the rest of your church family online in Corpus? Hey, we love you guys. Special Merry Christmas season to you, and it is beginning to look a lot like Christmas, all right? I love all the decorations down at Waves Resort in Corpus, out in the lobby here in Austin, and it's just exciting. And we're all getting ready for Christmas Eve. That's why you've got this golden ticket. I know you haven't heard about this, but that golden ticket reminds you about Christmas Eve services. We're getting ready for this incredible experience, and we've got very limited time now for you to think about who you're going to bring. Remember, today we are 2 weeks away from Christmas Eve service week. Wow. So they start in Corpus. We've got 3 services in Corpus. We have 4 services in Austin. I will be live at all those services. Cannot wait, and it's going to be awesome for the whole family. You really don't want to miss it. People come to church on Christmas Eve. Think about who you can give a golden ticket to. And there really is no excuse to miss this year because we also have 4 online experiences. So even online, you can gather your family and friends on the 23rd or the 24th, 4 different options, just to be encouraged, to have an uplifting experience to end this year. We're going to end the whole each service with candlelight and silent night. I mean, who doesn't love those 2 things? So don't miss it. Spread the word. Bring someone with you. Well, as we walk up to Christmas in this Advent season, we are in a series called Make Room, and I want to encourage you to turn to Matthew chapter 2 and take out your message notes. And while you're doing that, let me ask this question for those in Corpus, here in Austin, play along online. Please participate. How many of you guys have ever seen the show Hoarders? You ever seen the show Hoarders? Yeah, it's a little discouraging, a little depressing. I think I've only made it through a couple of them because it's just so hard to watch. Because if you haven't seen this show, Hoarders, I mean, they actually highlight this person who can't get rid of anything. And so literally over time, they can't get rid of anything. And not only that, they keep collecting things. And so as you keep collecting things and you don't get rid of anything, things stack up, literally. And so on this show, they highlight people and interview people who can't make it through their home. I mean, can't find the kitchen, can't get to the bedroom. And it's easy to watch this show and say, you know what is their problem? Why can't they get rid of anything? Why do they keep hoarding everything? Why do they keep collecting? It's easy to watch a show like that and say, literally, you need to make some room, okay? You need to clear out. You can't even move here in this house. It's a little bit harder, though, when we walk through a series like this. We're designing this not to look at hoarders in houses, literal houses, but what happens when we start to hoard things in our heart, spiritually, emotionally? What are we collecting? And if we're not careful, we can end up with, it's hard to see in ourselves, but we've got a lot of clutter. We've got a lot of things that shouldn't be there. And all of a sudden, our minds are filled with thoughts, and our hearts are weighed down, and all of a sudden, we get anxious. We'll talk more about that next week. And all of a sudden, our to-do list is too long. We're too busy. And we've got so many things cluttered in our lives that we truly miss Him. The whole reason for this season, the Christ of Christmas. I mean, think about this. The very first Christmas, people were busy. Lots of things were happening. In the very first Christmas story, you remember the government is causing chaos. Just use your imagination. The government is causing chaos, and all of a sudden people are going places, doing things, and Mary and Joseph end up in Bethlehem. They weren't even planning on being there, and all of a sudden they have to go down to Bethlehem. And look in your message notes before we get to Matthew 2. Look at Luke chapter 2 in your message notes on the screen here. It says, "So it was that while they were there, the days were completed for her to be delivered." In other words, Mary was going to have a baby. Now, when you read the Bible, especially familiar stories like the Christmas story, you can easily get into that somber voice. It's almost like the voice that puts you to sleep on your sound machine. "And in those days, it was time for her to be delivered." You know, and he kind of like, what is that? All right, you got to stop here and think about what's going on. It's time for her to have a baby. Now, if you've never been around this type of experience, when mom says it's time to deliver, it's time to deliver. I mean, there is no negotiation. There's not like, hey, I'm kind of busy. Can we put it off till next week? I mean, it's like, it's on, okay? You've got to stop everything, and the delivery is happening. And Mary looks at Joseph and says, it's time, okay? And when it's time, it's time. Now, here's the problem. There's nowhere for the delivery to happen. Look at this next verse, verse 7. And she, Mary, brought forth her firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger because there was, help me out real life, 2 words, there was what? No room. There was no room for them in the inn. You see, it's real easy to look at this first Christmas story and just like we would look at the show Hoarders and go, are you kidding me right now? What could be more important than Jesus? Why are you so busy? What is going on in your life? Are you kidding me? You missed Jesus? It's easy to look at this first Christmas story and judge maybe the person running the inn or the people in the houses and people who could have easily made room, but because they were distracted, because they got busy, they missed it. But let's fast forward to this Christmas season. And how easy is it for us, even in these days, to miss the true reason for the season because we get busy, we get distracted, we got so many things going on, so much weighing us down, so many things on the to-do list that just like the first Christmas, we miss the most important aspect of Christmas. We miss the whole reason why we're celebrating Christmas. We didn't make room for Jesus. And then that's why I got you to turn to Matthew chapter 2, because the wise men are going to help us discover how to make room. Okay? And so look at Matthew chapter 2 in your Bibles. I've got it on the screen as well. And let's pick up the story. This is the rest of the story that started in Luke chapter 2. And it says, so Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. So there's this tension between kings here. You got King Herod and King Jesus. And it says, about that time, some wise men from the eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem asking, notice their question, where is the newborn king of the Jews? Now just circle that word king. Now you can imagine they go to King Herod and say, where's the king? He's got a crown on, he's sitting on his throne, and they're like, hey king, hey, where's the real king? We're looking for the king, the one who's really the king. And we saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him. Now let's just stop here, and one of the obvious questions that just leaps off the page as you read this is, who are these guys? I mean, really, like, where did they come from? I mean, all of a sudden you've got these from eastern lands. I mean, what is the background of the wise men? And if you're an extra note taker, I want you to write this verse down. Daniel chapter 2, verse 48. I don't have it in your notes, but I'll put it here on the screen because it talks about this guy named Daniel. You'll notice that's how the verse starts. It says Daniel. Now, Daniel was a Jewish boy who grew up in Jerusalem, but then his country was attacked by another nation, and the Babylonians took Daniel away, and he grew up in a different culture who had different values, but Daniel, instead of being changed by the culture, changed the culture. He held his convictions, he held to his values, he worshiped his God, even though everybody else was telling him not to. You remember Daniel, right? Daniel got thrown in the lion's den, that Daniel. And because of so many things happening in his life, including them seeing him delivered from the lion's den, Daniel not only survived the Babylonians, but when the Persians came and took over Babylonia, he still was very, very influential in the government there. It says Daniel was made ruler over the whole province of Babylon, as well as chief over all his, and here's the same word you see in Matthew 2, wise men. Most scholars believe that the wise men that we see in the story in Matthew 2 were generations passed down from the original wise men trained by Daniel, who told them there's one God. He will send a Messiah. He will send the chosen one, and he will be the king. Look for him. Anticipate him. Be ready for him. And that from Daniel's influence, centuries before, these wise men come from Persia, which, by the way, is modern-day Iran. Now, let me just show you a quick map of the journey of the wise men. It's a good distance away from Jerusalem. Scholars have calculated how the wise men would have traveled to Israel. They would have followed this ancient trade route that's confirmed by many historians. And by the way, there is a small expedition you can take that happens every year to commemorate the wise men's journey. And you can actually sign up for it and go on it. It's only 1,600 miles. And it starts in Iran. It's really cool, okay? It starts in Iran. You get to go to Iraq, then to Syria, then to Jordan, and then through Israel, and then to the Palestinian territory of Bethlehem. It's awesome, okay? Who wouldn't want to do that? It only takes 3 months. And you could sign up for that and maybe do that. And that's 3 months journey, by the way. You have to get stuff ready. You have to store up some things. You have to find a camel. You got to get prepared for the trip. You say, well, okay, what's the point? Well, the point is there's no way that the wise men made it to Bethlehem the night Jesus was born, okay? And you say, well, when did they get there? Well, Matthew tells us, go down to verse 10 of Matthew chapter 2. It says, when they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered, notice, not the barn, not the stable, but the house. Okay, so at this time, Mary and Joseph have now found room. They've got a house, and it says, and saw thee, and here's another key word, child. The Greek language is very, very specific. This is not baby as found in Luke 2. This is a child, and actually used for that term toddler. So just starting to walk, just right before 2 years of age, 1 to 2 years old, with his mother, Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. And you say, okay, well, what do we have in this lesson, so far? Say, well, Micah, so far you've messed up my nativity scene. All right, I got a nativity set at home, and no, you keep the wise men there, it's okay. You say, well, yeah, and now I know about some trip I can take in the Middle East. Not doing that. I don't have a camel, and I'm not going through those countries. And so what does this have to do with me today? Is there anything relevant to me? Absolutely. There is something so practical. I'm going to give you 3 things that the wise men help us with, because what they help us with is so relevant to your Christmas season and your life today. And there's 3 things I want you to write down. And they teach us to make room in our heart for Jesus. So what does that look like? Well, number 1, write this down. First of all, make room in your calendar for worship. So how do I know I'm making room for Jesus? Well, are you making room in your calendar for worship? The wise men teach us that worship is a commitment. They have to make a commitment that they are going to put aside some things to take a hold of the best thing. And they're going to make time, not just a little time, okay? They're going to take 3 months. That's to get there. So 6 months commitment, round trip to not miss Jesus. Worship is a decision. It's saying Jesus is going to be a priority. And I want to encourage you as you think about this story and think about your life to make Jesus a priority and say, you know what, I'm going to set aside some time to worship. Well, what does that look like? Well, I would encourage you to start with saying, you know what, in the new year, 2021, I'm going to set aside time and I'm going to have 1 hour on Sunday that I pursue Jesus, that I seek Jesus, just like the wise men, and I'm not going to miss it. It's going to be on the calendar as important as any schedule I have, anything on my calendar, and that is going to be my time, because why are we gathered here anyway? I think for some of us, there's this passion equal to the wise men, but maybe there's just at least a curiosity to say, wait a minute, there's something bigger. There's something I need to pursue. I'm missing something. I need to seek Jesus. We're here, just like the wise men sought him. We're saying, you know what, Jesus, thank you. Thank you for coming to earth to save us, to be our King. Jesus, thank you for saving our souls, for forgiveness. Thank you for peace. And we're here to gather in this 1 hour to make that a priority and take time in our calendar for worship. I talk to people all the time who say, I wasn't even going to come today. I really didn't want to come. I love when you can be honest with the pastor and say that, right? Like, I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to listen to you. But they're honest enough to say we all feel that way at times. Why do we push through it? Why is it that the most crazy things that can happen in our schedule or the one-off arguments happen on Sunday morning? It's because there's someone else trying to keep you from worship, from actually getting to this space. But they say, you know what, I got here. And something, I'm so glad I came. I'm so glad I didn't miss it. When you make time in your calendar for worship, and we just pray this over every experience at Real Life, when you take time to click and connect online, when you take time to get to Corpus, get to Austin campus, that something happens in the music. And by the way, the music was amazing today. Just make room. I will make room for you. You're the King of Kings, Jesus, and you're worshiping. Something in the message would touch you, would change you, and that experience, just like the wise men, would be a life-changing experience. I talked to some people who are connecting with us online and just say the same thing. Just we sit down together. We make time to be a part of this experience, and it's really changing us, even in this difficult year. And so set aside time, an hour a week, yes, but even just several minutes a day, just as you start your day. I'm going to seek him. I'm going to put him first. Jesus, help me today to put you first, to seek you. You're the King. To every day decide who is the King, who's in charge of my life. Look at Psalm 105, verse 4. I think this really describes the heart of the wise men. In your notes are on the screen. It says, seek more of his strength. Seek more of him. Seek him. Let's always be seeking the light of his face. See, the wise men remind us that it's not just setting aside a little bit of time in the morning or setting aside an hour on Sunday, but it's setting aside your life. I mean, think about this. They show us that worship is a journey. It's every day of your life. It's every moment. And I'm really praying that you would just step back and say, you know what, from now on, every decision I make, every day of my life, I'm asking myself, is this taking me toward Bethlehem or toward Persia? Is this taking me toward Jesus? Is this decision drawing me toward him and his will and his best for my life? Or is this decision, is this activity drawing me away from him in my heart? They literally scream at us in their example here. The wise men say, make room for him in your calendar. They just set aside their lives on this pursuit. Literally takes them half a year of their lives. And they remind us that every step counts. I don't know how many steps are in 1,600 miles, but every step got him closer to God's best. Speaking of steps, really quick commercial break. I want to invite everybody to Next Step. That is today. It's our last one of the year. If you have not connected with our church family, I would love for you to be there. It's at 12:30. If you're on campus, we'll feed you at 12:30. If you're online, which I think we already have a little over 20 people signed up online. It's 12:30. You'll just click and connect with us. But I'd love to spend a little bit more time with you. Take that opportunity. I do want to help you connect with our family, but more than that, fast track your faith, your walk with God, and how to do that. And so I'd love to hang out with you. It's only from 12:30 to 2, so it's just one opportunity. That's an example. But the wise men say, every opportunity, I'm going to decide Jesus is a priority on my calendar. And I'm going to decide every decision is going to help me take a step toward him. And really, everything that you have on your calendar is a reflection of your heart. Your calendar does not lie. How you spend your time is what you worship. So make room in your calendar for worship. But also write this down. Make room in your relationships for joy. Make room in your relationships for joy. The wise men show us that you need to connect with people who bring joy into your life. You see, there's a big reason why this is the story of the wise men, not the wise man. I mean, if there was one guy in Persia and he saw a star and he was like, I want to go check that out. I think I can get close to the King of Kings. I'd like to get closer to Jesus. And he goes, shares it with some guys who aren't wise men, who aren't seeking the same joy. They're going to be like, no, man, it's a long way. If you checked, I just checked that on Google Maps. That's 1,600 miles, man. I'm not doing that. Let's just hang out here and watch Netflix. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. See, one man can't do it on his own. You need other people. You need a community. And that's why we gather on Sunday. That's why we connect with each other. But you need to really think about your relationships, your friend circles. When you worship Jesus in community, there is an exponential emotion to it. We're going to see that in the next verse in a second. But you say, well, how do I know if my relationships are drawing me closer to Jesus? Just look at what emotion those relationships are bringing out in you, and you're going to know. Listen, just kind of play along with this, okay? But if you hang out with cynical people, it's going to make you more what? I'm not trying to trick you. Cynical, that's right. Okay, thank you very much. If you hang out with angry people who are always outbursting, yelling, it's going to make you be more what? Angry. If you hang out with judgmental people who are always like, look at them, look at that, making fun of everything. If you hang out with judgmental people, it's going to make you more. Now, if you hang out with joyful people, who say, hey, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get close to Jesus. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm going to seek him. I don't know what your life is about, but my life is about every step and every decision, not missing his best, his will, his plan. I'm going after Jesus, and I am joyful. When you hang out with joyful people, it's going to make you more. Absolutely. And that's what happens in this story. It's the story of the wise men. Look at how the joy just comes out of this relationships in verse 9. It says, and the star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem, and it went ahead of them, and they stopped over the place. It stopped over the place where the child was. And when they saw the star, they were filled with, help me out, joy. Now, I just want you to circle filled with joy, because that's the best we can translate this into English. But in the Greek, it's just unreal, but there's two adjectives to actually describe the joy here, and you could translate it many, many different ways. Literally, it means exceedingly great joy. Actually, one of the Greek words to describe this kind of joy is where we get our word mega from, okay? In other words, they are having such an intense experience of joy in their relationship with each other in pursuit of Jesus that this is an experience that's so intense, it changes their affections, their emotions, and even changes their mind and their thoughts and what they focus on. It is a completely transforming experience because of this joy that they're sharing together. There was just something about this moment. I'm going to tell you, if you hang out with people who are excited about Jesus, who want to get closer to him, who want to pursue him and seek him, you're going to find more joy in your life. You say, well, how do I do that? How do I pursue joy in relationships? Well, let me just share an acrostic with you, and you've probably heard this before, but I'll just share it with you again, and I want you to write it down. It's how to remember what joy means, because we don't know what it means. We have it at Christmas time. Let me tell you what happened. When we landed back in Austin this week, there was actually the word joy at baggage claim. Let me show it to you. They had J-O-Y. Some of you have this decoration. I think it's one of the most prominent decorations at Christmas. Some of you guys have this on your mantle in your front yard, and they had this at baggage claim. But let me just tell you, there was no joy at baggage claim, okay? They had this word like joy, but there was no joy, okay? It was like there was sarcasm at the baggage claim. There was depression at the baggage claim. There was discouragement, frustration, and I want to get out of here at baggage claim. But there was no joy at baggage claim, okay? You got to choose joy, and emotions are contagious. And so emotions are contagious. You got to ask yourself, am I going to build in joy? Well, ask yourself, what emotion do the relationships I'm engaging with, does it bring joy? How do I get joy off the mantle and in my heart? How did I get joy out of the front yard as a decoration and into my home? And that's what I want to give you. I want to give you this acrostic. So the J is Jesus first. If you want joy in your relationships, you've got to put Jesus first in your own heart, and you've got to look around and say, is Jesus first in the people that I hang out with? And so in other words, ask yourself this question. The people I am closest to, are they pursuing Jesus? Now, I'm not talking about people you're acquainted with or just kind of, casual friends at work. I'm talking about your closest friends. In other words, if you're dating someone, are they pursuing Jesus? That is the number one question. Because if they're not, they'll keep you in Persia. But Jesus wants you to get to Bethlehem. God don't want you to miss his best and his plan. And so is Jesus first in your heart? And is he first in their lives? And if he is, there's going to be a joy, a contagious joy. Now, I'm telling you, friends are super huge. The wise men chose their friends wisely and got to where God wanted them to be. There was joy in the relationship. But when you're not intentional about this, you just hang out with whoever, and you just make your close friends whoever is going to be, all of a sudden, just think about the story being different. One wise man sees the star, and he goes to a group of friends, and he goes, let's go to Bethlehem. Have you seen how far that is? Let's just stay here. Yeah, let's just stay here. And missed it. So don't miss it. Put Jesus first. Hang out with other people who put Jesus first. Don't hang out with people who say, man, that's pretty radical. You want to go to Bethlehem? Man, that's pretty radical. You want to go to church on Sunday? Every Sunday? Man, that's really crazy. You want to serve? I don't know about that. And if you hang out with those people, they're going to influence you. Decide today, I'm going to pursue Jesus. You have to decide today, who's the king? They said, Jesus is king, so we're going to leave the king of Persia, go ask the king of Jerusalem, but we're going to find the king of the world. We're going to find the king of kings. We're going to find Jesus. And when you do that, you experience the wonder and the mystery and the joy that everybody else in life is looking for. And when Jesus is first, write this down, others are second. That's one of the ways you know that Jesus is first. When he's in charge, he's going to move you to serve others because that's what he came to earth to do. So when you make room in your heart for Jesus, he makes room in your life to serve others. And all of a sudden, a person of joy is asking this question: how can I help you? How can I serve you? What do you need right now? You see, if you want to be miserable the rest of your life, be selfish. Think about yourself. Don't ask anybody what they're doing, but just think that life is all about you, what you want, when you want it, how you want it, and you will be miserable and make everybody around you miserable and stay in Persia. The wise men said, let's do this. Let's go after Jesus. We're going to bless him and his whole family, as a matter of fact, and we're going to put others, we're going to serve, we're going to help. And all of a sudden, when you put Jesus first and you make room in your heart for Jesus, he makes room in your life for others. And there's this joy that comes from helping, from serving, from a compassionate empathy to say, I need to be kind to you. How can I bring peace to this relationship? You say, well, how do I know if I've made room in my heart for Jesus? It's really simple. You just look at your life. What are you doing and what are you saying? You say, well, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Listen, that's not how you get saved. You get saved by Jesus alone. But once Jesus is in your heart, you make room for him. The fruit of that is in what you do and what you say. That's what Jesus said. Look at this in your notes that are on the screen. Luke chapter 6, verse 45. It says, good people do good things because of the good in their, help me out, where? Hearts. It's a heart issue. When you're doing good things, it's because you've made room for Jesus and you're helping others because good things come out of good people who have their hearts in the right place. But Jesus says the opposite is true. Bad people do bad things. Don't be surprised. Bad people do bad things. Why? Because of the evil in there. Where is the evil? It's a heart issue. What they're doing is because they haven't allowed Jesus to do what only he can do in their heart. And notice this next indication, this fruit. It says your words show what is in your heart. Circle words and circle heart. You see, what Jesus is saying is when you do good things, it's from a good heart. So when you are helpful and you're kind and you're a peacemaker, it's because the Prince of Peace lives in your heart. You've made room for him. And he's also saying that what you say matters. Listen, if you don't make room for Jesus in your heart, you don't have to tell anybody. They know. You're mean, you're selfish, you're demeaning, you're degrading, and you're cynical. Listen, we all have speed bumps and we all trip from time to time. But when you don't have Jesus in your heart, it's very evident in what you're saying. A person who makes room experiences joy in their relationships because their joy has a lot of amazing words. And there's love coming out of your mouth. There's grace coming out of your mouth. There is a peace to your words. There is a hope to what you are saying. And you find yourself like, wow, I'm really being encouraging. Wow, I'm being kind. Wow, I'm being a lot nicer. And all of a sudden, those words are just a reflection. Jesus says your words show what is in your heart. And when you put Jesus first, others are second. And write this down, you are then fulfilled. Now listen, you want to be empty, you want to have a miserable life, make it all about you, and you will not be fulfilled. The world tells us the opposite of what I just told you. The world says the way you're going to be happy is put yourself first, don't worry about anything else, be selfish, be self-centered, make all the focus about you, and I'm telling you, that is an empty life. The wise men said, no, you want to find joy, like mega joy, exceedingly great joy, put Jesus first, pursue him. And others will be served and helped, and you will find a fulfillment that you can't find anywhere else. If you want to miss joy, stay comfortable, stay selfish, and just stay content where you are, and just stay in Persia. But make room for him. You'll move, and Jesus is first, others are second. When you do, look at Psalm 119, verse 2. I think this is about the heart of the wise men here. It says, what joy overwhelms everyone who keeps the ways of God. Now read the next line with me. Those who seek him as their heart's passion. And just circle seek him and circle joy. If you're not experiencing joy in your life right now, it is because you're missing the only one who brings it, and that's Jesus. When you pursue him with passion, like the wise men, you're going to experience this super abundant, extravagant, mega joy because you made room. And they were just seeking him in their hearts. Now, let's see what happens next. Look at verse 11 of our text today. It says, they entered the house and saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Now, I need you to circle him, period. And this is why, because the wise men come into the presence of the mother Mary and the child Jesus, and they worship only Jesus. Mary is very, very special, one of the most amazing women who ever lived in history. But when it comes down to worship, you got room for one, and that's Jesus, okay? Jesus, period. And so it says, they came and worshiped him. We're here to worship Jesus, and he's going to be our king. Look at this. They bowed down and worshiped him. Now, how do you know their worship was real? Look, it says, they opened their treasure chest and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So circle worship and circle gave. Genuine worship, as we see here, is always accompanied by generosity. If you are truly worshiping something or someone, it'll be seen in what you are giving to that something or someone. By the way, do you know that's why we have one of these offering envelopes every Sunday? It says our home, and it has an opportunity to give at the campuses and online. It's not because, like, hey, let's just see, if we can get, what you would get from a movie, like maybe $20 or something like that. No, this is worship. This is actually an opportunity to worship, to be generous. Let me just tell you guys are so awesome. You're so generous. I just have to brag on you guys because even while the pastor is gone, you're generous. I mean, we talked about Angel Tree for 3 weeks, and these kids, especially in this year, more than almost any other year, we've got more kids in Austin and Corpus that would not have Christmas unless some people step up and say, we want to give and not hold on to everything, but be generous. And because you guys were generous in just 3 weeks, you guys ready for this? Between Corpus and Austin and online, you guys blessed, are you ready for this? 300 plus kids for Christmas. That's awesome. That's incredible. I am so proud of you guys, really. I mean, can you feel that though? Can you feel that? Like, yeah, hey, 300 kids plus are going to wake up on Christmas in Corpus and Austin, and nobody cared. Nobody was going to have anything for them. But because you were generous, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, there's a joy to that. There's an excitement to that. And that's what God wants you to feel and experience all year long. So how do you do that? How do you make room in your heart? Well, the wise men show us, write this down, you make room in your budget for giving. They gave gifts, and their generosity is still celebrated through generations. They gave gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And so I just want to give you this assignment over the month of December and just ask you to take one of these envelopes home, or if you're at home online, just to kind of reflect on this. And sometime this month, give your best gift to Jesus. Give your best gift as a special offering for him. I mean, just think about this. Can you imagine going to a birthday party and everybody gets gifts except the kid whose birthday it was? I mean, can you imagine that? I mean, going to a birthday party and everybody gets the gifts except, by the way, whose birthday is Christmas? It's not yours, okay? It's Jesus, okay? And the question is, what are you going to get the birthday boy? What are you going to give to him? But by the way, where did giving even come from? Where did this whole idea of giving at Christmas come from? It came from the wise men. Even people who don't believe the Bible, don't believe this story, and don't honor Jesus, give gifts at Christmas. Why? Because the wise men gave gifts. They inspired it. The early church, the Christians, for 1,000 years brought gifts on Christmas. They brought gifts for 1,000 years. They brought whatever they had. They brought cows, grain, whatever that, just to make an offering and say, Jesus, thank you. Thank you for forgiveness. Thank you for purpose. Thank you for peace. Jesus, thank you. Thank you for everything you've done for us. And somehow over the generations and over the years, they started giving gifts to each other too. Nothing wrong with that, but hey, I just want to be generous to you too. And yeah, and you too, and you too. And now what happens today is, unfortunately, 2,000 years later, we have a birthday for someone, but we forget Jesus. And all the gifts go to everyone else. And we forget the whole reason for the season. And I just want to encourage you to sit down and ask yourself, as a single, as a couple, as a family, let's give our best gift to Jesus. Let's give our best gift to offer to him, to say thank you, to say, Jesus, I want to acknowledge you. I want to worship you. I want to thank you. I want to bless you. I want to recognize all this is yours. You get the best gift. And for some of you, you're going to have to look back over your Amazon Prime orders already, all right? Just say, man, who's going to get the best gift? Just make sure it's Jesus. The wise men show us, make room for him. Look at Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. In your notes are on the screen. It says, and without faith living within us, you got to make room for him, faith in him. It would be impossible to please God, for we have come to God in faith, knowing that he is real and he rewards the faith of those who, circle this word, give. Watch this. Not just all their money, not just their possessions. No. Giving and generosity is much bigger than that. All their passion, all their strength, everything they have into seeking him. The wise men started the trend. So we're going to travel 3 months, do whatever it takes, say goodbye to what's familiar and what's comfortable, and we're going to go all in because Jesus is worth it, he is worthy, and he is all that matters. In the same way, when you make room for Jesus by faith in your heart, he moves you. He makes room for these other things, including generosity. And by the way, when you think of the wise men and the gifts, you think of the gold, frankincense, and myrrh, but you have to realize the whole journey was a gift. Their whole life was a gift. Every step was a gift. The gold, frankincense, and myrrh was just like the cherry on top. And, I know gold, frankincense, and myrrh, we remember those words. We've heard the story, and we get them confused because they're big words. It's like the elementary child that was asked about the 3 gifts of the wise men. They said, oh, I know that one. It's gold, Frankenstein, and myrtle. So, well, no, it's gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And as we reflect on what we give, not just this time of year, but in our lives throughout the next year, think about gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What does it say? Gold, the most precious gift in the world. It was the metal of the kings. And it said, Jesus, you're the king. And may what we give say that. When you look at what you give, does it say, Jesus, you're the king? Or, here's a tip, thanks for pulling my car up. It shows authority. It shows worthiness. By the way, it shows that I know that I'll be blessed when I am. It's like when you pay taxes. Now, I'm sorry to bring up taxes, but why do you even pay taxes? You're honoring the government and saying the government has authority, and I will give. And when I do, I expect benefits like roads and schools and other things. I know there'll be benefits from that. In the same way, why do we give? Well, we give because it's a great tax write-off. No, that's not what we do. It is, but that's not why do we give? Because it says, Jesus, you're the king, and you're worth it. Frankincense, literally used, more valuable, by the way, in those days than even gold. It was used in an offering and sacrifice, when sacrifices were given. Just like Jesus is the sacrifice for us. When you reflect on the sacrifice that Jesus made for you and died on a cross, does your generosity, your life, reflect the gratitude of that type of generosity? And myrrh. Now, myrrh is a really strange gift to give a child. Myrrh was actually what you used to embalm bodies. And by the way, the Bible tells us that when Jesus was buried in that borrowed tomb and his lifeless body was taken off the cross, he was buried with 75 pounds of myrrh. 75 pounds was only used for a king. You see, when you give, you have to ask yourself, am I really remembering the suffering that Jesus went through, that he was literally willing to die for me? And because he was willing to die for me, I want my sacrifice and my generosity to reflect that. The wise men put it all in perspective. And many things in life do. When I landed back here, I've had the privilege to just be able to touch and minister to many people, even go down to Corpus. But I had the privilege to be in a home yesterday with some great members who haven't been able to physically get to real life in quite a while. And Dennis has been struggling with cancer and tumors, and got a phone call that they said is very, very soon, 24, 48 hours, he's going to be going to heaven. And so just to walk into that room, and let me just tell you, as a pastor, it's really awesome when I walk into a room of people of faith, because there was just this joy in this room. Now, I thought I was going to have to bring the joy. They already had the joy. Hey, Pastor, how's it going? Dad's about to go to heaven. Hey, Pastor, how's it going? I'm so thankful that my dad's about to not suffer anymore, and he's about to be in a perfect place of no sorrow, tears, or pain. And there was his wonderful wife. They're in their house, been married, high school sweethearts. There's their 3 grown children, their son, their 2 daughters. And there's Dennis and just really struggling, but at peace. And there was just this hope in this room of grief, tears, of course, but joy. Listen, the wise men give us a perspective here. I'm telling you, friend, you've got eternity. You've got an eternity. And the wise men, they remind us that you've only got a certain amount of time of what you're going to seek, what you're going to pursue, where you're going to be, the steps you're going to take. And we're all going to die. You cannot avoid that. You can't decide, I'm not going to. You are. But you can decide how you're going to live, what you're going to live for. And you can be reminded that even death is not the end, it's just the door. And as the kids told me last night at Dennis's house, we're not saying goodbye to Dad. We're just saying we'll see you later. We're going to see you again because we've got that same fate. Jesus is in our hearts as well. And the wise men give us this perspective. Listen to me. They could have held on to their stuff, and they could have held on to their time, and they could have stayed in Persia and held on to their gold and said, I got it in the bank and I'm retiring. I'm playing golf in Iran every day of my life. And we wouldn't even know their names. And their gold would be covered by sand, as that city of Babylon, most of it is. But because they went all in, because they pursued, because they sought, not only did their generosity bless this very, very fragile family, but also their generosity resonates in a legacy today and inspires all of us. I hope it inspires you. Listen, Christmas is an invitation to come. Write this down in your notes. I put it on the screen. The closer you get to Jesus, the more significant life becomes. The closer you get to Jesus, the more significant your life becomes. And the closer they got to Jesus, their significance resonates through the generations. And I'm praying that their generosity, their all in spirit, their passion, their joy would encourage you. That the closer you get in the direction of your life and point everything to Jesus, the more joy and peace and fulfillment you're going to find, because it's all about Him. And the closer you get, the more significant life becomes. Let me close with Psalm 27, verse 4, and let this sink in. I believe this was the passion of the wise men, and may it be our story as well. And may it be the decision you make today. Here's the one thing I crave from God. The one thing I seek above all else. Listen, you can stay in Persia. You can keep your stuff. But I'm going all the way to Bethlehem. I'm going to find Him. I'm going to serve Him. I'm going to worship Him. I'm going to bow down to Him. And I'm going to make my life about Him. And I'm going to let go of anything that would keep me from getting close to Him. I seek above all else. I want the privilege of living with Him every moment in His house, finding the sweet loveliness of His face, filled with awe, delighting in His glory, His grace. I want to live my life so close to Him that He takes pleasure in every prayer. You say, well, that's what I want too. Listen, every prayer that you pray, if some guys in Iran, 1,600 miles from Bethlehem, can find Jesus, you can find Jesus today, right now, in your heart. So let's pray about that together. With your head bowed and eyes closed, even alone at your house on your computer. Listen, friend, today, make room in your heart for Him. And ask yourself, who's going to be the king? Who's going to be the authority? Who's going to call the shots? It's a very important question. And when the answer becomes Jesus, all of a sudden, your life changes for the better. Christmas is an invitation. And I just want to invite you today to give Jesus what He really wants, and that's your heart. He wants you to give Him you. He loves you. He knows your name and your needs. And so right now, would you just whisper this prayer, not out loud, just in your heart, just say, Jesus, thank you for all you've given to me. And right now, I want to give myself to you. Just tell Him, I want my life to be about seeking you. I want to live for your purpose. And I want to trust you, and I want to follow you. And just tell Him, I give myself to you as my Christmas gift. Heavenly Father, as we all pray this prayer, as we come back to what really matters, as we focus on this incredible example of the wise men, may we be wise. And Lord, I pray that as each heart who's gathered in this experience makes room that you would fill every heart with true joy and real hope and peace. Jesus, thank you so much that you came and you died, you rose again, that there's a true place called heaven. And thank you, Lord. I just got the text before I walked out here from Dennis's wife, Linda. Pastor Micah, at 7:51, Dennis went home. We're so thankful there is no more suffering. There's only joy. With that perspective, Lord, may we find joy, not in what's under the tree, but the one who died on the tree and rose again. And may that joy fill every heart, and may that hope fill every home, and may we, as we seek you, be instruments of joy everywhere we go. But we ask it in the name of our Savior and our King, Jesus Christ. And everybody said, amen. Let's give